What would you do if a billionaire stopped his car in the middle of a storm, handed you the keys to a house, and then disappeared? She had nothing, just a soaked blanket, a crying baby, and a past she couldn't outrun. He had everything: power, success, a future meticulously planned down to the minute. But when their worlds collided on a rain-slicked street in Portland, one choice changed both of their lives forever. Michael Reed never imagined a moment of compassion would spiral into chaos, because when he returned to the house he thought was empty, he found flashing ambulance lights, a collapsed father, and a woman he barely knew standing over the man who raised him. How did she get there? Why was she the one who saved him? And most of all, what happens when the person you tried to rescue ends up rescuing you? This isn't just a story about kindness. It's about trust, timing, and how one impossible decision in the rain became the beginning of a love neither of them saw coming. Stay with us, because the next 5 minutes will break your heart, rebuild your faith, and make you question, what if the stranger you helped was the family you were always meant to find? It was supposed to be just another rainy morning in Portland. But for Michael Reed, a 35-year-old architect with an empire of glass towers and green-roofed dreams, this was the day everything was on the line. He had a meeting in less than an hour with investors who could either fund his vision for sustainable urban housing or watch him crash and burn. His suit was pressed, his notes rehearsed. His driver, Tom Bennett, was inching through flooded roads, windshield wipers slicing the gray in a steady rhythm. Everything was set until it wasn't. "Stop the car," Michael said suddenly, eyes locked on something outside the window. "Sir?" Tom glanced in the rear view. "We're already cutting it close." "I said stop." The brakes squealed. On the sidewalk beneath the relentless rain stood a woman, soaked to the bone, hair plastered to her face, clutching a baby to her chest beneath a threadbare coat. Her knees trembled, lips pale, but her arms never loosened around the child. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Michael opened the door before Tom could argue, stepping straight into the downpour. Why would a man with everything step out of a luxury car and into this moment? Why did he feel like this was the most important decision he'd ever make? "Ma'am," he said gently, "are you all right?" The woman flinched. "We don't want trouble." "You're not in trouble. I'm Michael. What's your name?" "Emily," she whispered. "This is Sophie." Michael's heart clenched. The baby didn't cry. She was too cold for that. Only the soft rise and fall of her chest proved she was still holding on. "Do you have anywhere to go?" Emily shook her head, rain dripping from her chin. "I've tried shelters. They're full or unsafe." Michael hesitated for just a breath, then sprinted back to the car, flinging open the glove box. The spare key to his late father's old house was still inside. He ran back to her, soaking wet. "There's a house 10 minutes from here. It's warm, it's safe. My dad used to live there, but he's with me now." He held out the key. Emily stared at it like it might disappear. "I'll have Tom take you there. We'll stop by a market, food, baby supplies, anything you need." I don't even know you." Michael nodded. "You don't have to, just trust me, for today." And for reasons she couldn't explain, Emily did. Tom, now silent, helped them into the car. As it pulled away, Michael stood in the rain, soaked, late, and strangely still. But what he didn't know, what he couldn't have predicted, was that his father, Edward Reed, had taken the spare key earlier that morning. Tired of hospitals and nurses, he'd told the housekeeper he wanted to spend a few quiet days alone in the place that held so many memories. Which meant Emily and her baby weren't walking into an empty house. They were walking into something else entirely. That evening, after the meeting in downtown Portland, one that felt forgettable despite its significance, Michael climbed into the back seat of the car. His thoughts were elsewhere. "How'd it go?" he asked Tom. "They're fine," Tom said. "I dropped them at the house like you asked." "At the door?" "No, a block away. Easier for parking." Michael frowned. "Tom, it's pouring rain. You should have dropped her at the door." "I'm sorry, sir." Michael ran a hand through his damp hair. "It's fine. I'll check on them in the morning." But when he got home, the housekeeper's face was pale. "Mr. Reed," she said, "your father, he took the spare key." He said he was feeling better and wanted some time alone. Michael froze. Emily and Sophie weren't alone in that house. His sick elderly father was with them, and no one knew. Without a word, Michael turned to Tom. "Drive, now!" His mind raced as the rain began to fall harder. What would Emily think, finding a stranger in what she thought was a safe haven? Would she panic? Run? Would his father even be all right? Why hadn't he thought to check? And what if something had already happened? The closer they got to the house, the heavier the weight in Michael's chest became. But nothing could have prepared him for what he'd see when they turned the final corner. Flashing red lights, an ambulance parked outside, paramedics rushing in and out. Michael's blood ran cold. He didn't wait. He jumped out of the car and bolted up the steps, heart pounding in his ears. What would you do if you were in Michael's shoes? Would you have stopped for Emily in the rain? Would you trust a stranger with a key to your past? And what would you say if the woman you tried to save had just saved your father's life? Stay with us. The next moment may change everything. If you were Michael, would you have stopped in the rain or kept driving to protect your future? Do you think Emily saw this as an act of charity or as something more? What do you believe makes a family, shared blood or shared choices? Rain pelted the windshield as the car sped through the streets of Portland, but all Michael Reed could hear was the echo of the housekeeper's words. Your father took the spare key this morning. He had sent Emily and baby Sophie to what he believed was an empty house, a safe place. But it wasn't empty. Inside was his father, Edward Reed, a man recovering from heart complications, frail but stubborn, a man who hadn't seen or spoken to a stranger in weeks. Michael's stomach twisted. What had Emily walked into? As the car turned the final corner, flashing lights confirmed his worst fears. A paramedic unit sat parked by the curb, casting red pulses across the front porch. Michael didn't wait. He leapt from the vehicle, feet splashing in puddles as he tore up the steps, heart hammering. "Dad!" he shouted, bursting through the door. The living room looked like a scene frozen in chaos. Two paramedics hovered over a stretcher, oxygen mask secured, IV line already in place. On the stretcher, pale, unmoving, lay Edward. And beside him, trembling but composed, was Emily. She looked up as Michael entered, her eyes wide. Sophie was wrapped tightly in her arms, the infant stirring against her chest. I didn't know what to do," she whispered. He collapsed. 1 second he was talking, then he just fell. Her voice cracked. "But I saw a number on the fridge. I called it. I didn't think. I just called." Michael stepped forward, eyes locked on his father's pale face. One of the paramedics turned to him. "You're his son?" Michael nodded. "What happened?" "Massive stroke. But she called fast. If she hadn't, we might not be standing here talking." Michael turned to Emily, overwhelmed. "You saved his life." She didn't answer. And what could he say? He'd handed a stranger the keys to his past, and somehow she'd protected it better than he had. Outside, sirens howled as the ambulance pulled away, carrying Edward toward the hospital. Michael stood on the porch, soaked again, watching the lights vanish into the storm. Behind him, Emily stepped out slowly. "I didn't know he'd be there," she said. "I'm sorry." "No," Michael replied, turning toward her. "I should have told you. It's my fault. You didn't just stay. You took care of him. And I can't thank you enough." There was a pause. Sophie whimpered. Emily rocked her gently, her eyes still wary. "Can I come in?" Michael asked softly. She hesitated, then nodded. Inside, the house had changed. The old forgotten place where Edward had once spent his final independent years now smelled like baby powder and tea. A bottle sat on the counter. A blanket was spread across the couch. Sophie's tiny socks lay drying near the heater. In just a few hours, Emily had made it feel lived in. "Do you need anything?" Michael asked as she settled Sophie down into a makeshift crib made from a basket and a stack of towels. She shook her head. "You've done enough." "No," Michael said, eyes narrowing. "What I did was drop a stranger into a house without telling her someone else might show up. That's not kindness. That's reckless." Emily gave a half smile. "You meant well, and I'm used to chaos." Michael studied her for a long moment. "You said you didn't have anywhere to go. What happened?" Emily hesitated. Then slowly she sat down. Her hands rested on her knees, eyes distant. I was 16 when my mom died. My dad drank himself into a version of someone I didn't recognize. I was invisible unless I was in his way. I learned to hide in books, in dreams. I wanted to be an architect. Michael blinked. I got accepted to community college. Then I met someone. He told me he believed in me. Then I got pregnant, and he disappeared. She looked down at Sophie, now sleeping peacefully. My father threw me out the night I told him. I've been on the street since then. Silence. I'm sorry, Michael said. You shouldn't have had to carry all of that. Not alone. She shrugged. Most people don't care about stories like mine. You cared. That's more than most. Michael walked toward the fireplace and picked up a photo of his father working on their old house. My dad always said homes are meant to be filled, not with furniture, with people. He turned back to her. I want you and Sophie to stay, not just for tonight. Emily stared at him. Why would you offer that? Because you saved him, because you brought life back into this house, because you still dream, even when the world's tried to crush you. He paused. And maybe because I don't want this to be the end of our story. Emily's eyes filled with something unreadable. Hope, fear, gratitude. She looked down at Sophie, then back at Michael. I don't know what to say. Then don't, Michael replied. Just stay. Nahum. What would you do if someone handed you a second chance? Could you trust it? Or would the past whisper too loud? And when a stranger offers you shelter, not out of pity, but out of belief, do you walk away or finally stop running? Do you think Michael's offer comes from compassion or something deeper? Would you have trusted Emily with your home and your father? What do you believe matters more? Where someone comes from or what they choose to do with a second chance? The morning after the hospital scare, Michael Reed stood at the foot of his father's bed in the ICU, watching the steady rise and fall of the oxygen mask. Edward was stable, not out of the woods, but alive. And the only reason he was breathing was because Emily Carter, a woman who'd had every reason to walk away, had stayed. She could have panicked. She could have left without a trace. Instead, she called, and now nothing felt the same. Later that evening, Michael returned to the house, still damp from the storm the night before. The porch light flickered softly, casting a warm glow over the rain-speckled windows. Inside, he found Emily folding blankets in the living room. Sophie, swaddled and full, was snoring in a makeshift crib. Emily glanced up. Is he okay? Michael nodded slowly. He's going to make it. The doctor said your call saved precious minutes. She said nothing, just turned back to the laundry. Michael hesitated. I meant it. You don't have to leave. I didn't plan to stay, she replied, her voice even. This was temporary, a kindness I didn't expect. But now, maybe it's gone too far. What does that mean? She looked up, tired. It means I've never been offered something without a catch. People help, then expect. Or worse, take. Michael stepped closer, trying to read the guarded pain in her eyes. What if I'm not like them? She shook her head. No offense, Michael, but you're a millionaire who jumped out of a luxury car and handed a stranger the key to a house. That's not normal. He laughed, though there was no humor in it. I've been told. Then he sobered. But maybe the world needs less normal and more of this. Second chances. No contracts, no strings, just people being there for each other. A long silence settled between them. Michael crossed to the kitchen, opened a cabinet, and pulled out a dusty box filled with yellowed sketches and old blueprints. He carried it to the table and set it down. My father taught me how to design buildings, he said, flipping through the papers. But he always said the real craft is learning how to build a home. That's different. That takes soul. He paused, then looked directly at her. I think you have that, and I think you should go back to school. Architecture, like you always wanted. Emily blinked. Are you serious? I've already made some calls. Westbrook School of Architecture has a new semester starting in 2 weeks. I can help with enrollment or funding, whatever you need. Her hands trembled slightly. Michael, why? Because I've seen how you make a place feel alive. Because you saved the man who raised me. And because if the world gave you even a sliver of what you've already given back, You'd build something extraordinary. She turned away, blinking fast. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You don't know me. I know enough, he said softly. I know strength when I see it. Sophie stirred in her crib, a soft whimper bubbling up. Emily rushed over, scooped her into her arms, and began to gently rock her. She didn't speak for a long time. Then finally, if I say yes, what happens next? Michael exhaled. You move in. Officially. You have your own space. My dad's recovering, and he'll love the company. You focus on school, I'll help with Sophie, and no one expects anything but your future. Emily looked down at her daughter, then back at Michael. You really believe in this? I believe in you. But even as the words left his mouth, doubt crept in. Would the world accept this? Could a man like him, wealthy, privileged, carrying the weight of his own past, really offer peace to someone who'd known nothing but chaos? Or was he just chasing a feeling he didn't understand? And what about Emily? Could she truly let herself lean on someone after years of surviving alone? The next day, she said yes. 2 weeks later, the Reed residence felt reborn. Laughter echoed through its halls again. Sophie's giggles blended with Edward's stories. And in the quiet hours of the night, Michael would sometimes stand at the door of Emily's room, listening to the soft scratching of pencils across paper. She was sketching again, rebuilding her dream. And every day, Michael asked himself one question. Was it fate that brought them together, or something more? Questions for the audience. If you were Emily, would you accept help from someone like Michael? Or would fear keep you from trusting again? Do you think Michael's offer is truly selfless? Or is he hoping for something more? Is it possible for two people from such different worlds to build a life together? Or are some gaps too wide to bridge? How do you feel about Emily and Michael's journey so far? If you're feeling moved or inspired, comment 3 below. If you felt it could have been stronger, comment 1. And if you're somewhere in the middle, comment 2. Tell us where in the world you're watching from. And if you believe in the power of unexpected kindness, share this story with someone who needs a little reminder that second chances still exist.